The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your financial advisor. The 4th of July is all about celebrating freedom and independence, but many of us aren't feeling that freedom and independence when it comes to our finances. A recent CBS poll found 72% of Americans feel concerned about their personal finances. That's compared to 53% who say they actually feel secure and content. So what steps can you take to feel more financially free and independent? Joining me today is Eric Steffi. He is the founder and CEO of Federal Solutions Support. What does financial freedom look like to you, and how can someone figure out what they need to do to start achieving that?
Well, when we celebrate the 4th of July, we're not only celebrating our political freedom, we're also celebrating the fact that we want our financial freedom. And I love seeing people reach out and enjoying financial freedom. And over the years, that has changed. And, when you're younger, what happens is you're getting started in life. Well, your goals of financial freedom are a little bit different, wanting to get married, wanting to buy a house, wanting to start a family. And then when that actually happens over the next few years, then it kind of changes. Well, growing your family or, career success and where your finances are. And it's going to be limited to the income you make or the different jobs that you have. And then as your family matures, your goals are going to change once again, whether the kids go to college or being able to provide. And then you're empty nesters and then looking to go into retirement. So I look at there's a lot of different phases. So to me, I'm in that phase now is someday down the road, I want to be able to retire. And so my goals today is to live in the home that I want to retire in and enjoy the rest of my life. I want to be able to drive the vehicle that is comfortable to me, that I can enjoy the lifestyle that I want to create. I want to be able to travel with my family and do things with my family and my grandkids, and to spend time with the friends that I have and the hobbies that I've created. And so it's a roller coaster ride over your lifetime. And I've really enjoyed having the privilege, to live in America with unlimited opportunities, that we have the ability to create our own individual financial freedom. So to me, it's been a journey. It's been a roller coaster. And I've really enjoyed helping coach people, the ones that are everyone's looking to find financial freedom, but there's those that are serious about getting there. And I love helping those people that are serious about getting there and showing them little things they can do to speed the process up.
Yeah. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. The first thing that someone needs to do is they sit down in the phase of life where they're at is they have to take a breath and sit back and take time. A lot of people are like, well, what do I want financial independence to be? Well, it's not just about financial independence. It's about finding out what you want to have in the near future and then in the extended future. And you need to get the person who is going to be on that journey, or the people that are on that journey with you, to have a discussion. I tell people, you need to take a couple hours. You need to sit back, and because usually for most families, there's more than one person involved, and you have to take their consideration into how do they want to get there and what does it look like for them. So if you're single, it's really easy. Well, here's what I want, and putting a plan in place is simple. But if you're married or you have a significant other, or maybe you have children that you're very involved with, that you're looking for like college education or getting them out and started in life, everyone's plan is going to be different. And I tell them up front, You have to take at least an hour or two. For some people, I tell them take a weekend and go away where you can clear your mind and have real conversations about what does it look like to you? What does it look like to me? Then let's compare notes so that we can put that plan in place. And in putting that plan in place, I tell everybody, there's no such thing as a perfect plan, that it is a roller coaster. And I've experienced myself as you take off and go towards that first goal or that first hurdle that you have, how are we going to get through this phase in our life? And what is it going to look like? How do we get that emergency fund in place? How do I start funding my retirement to max out our contributions for the match part of it? And if your goals are even bigger, you need to actually put even more into that account. You need to make sure that your insurances are prepared. That a lot of people, they go in and they, I really can't afford the full coverage, so I do the limited coverage. And then when they have that, I see it with car insurance or homeowners insurance, they go with the highest deductible and the lowest coverage. Then a catastrophe happens. It's out of their control, weather, or maybe they're in an accident in their vehicle, or they have a health crisis, and it literally bankrupts them because they didn't properly prepare to have the right kind of insurance to protect their home or to protect their life or to protect their health. And so it's making sure that they've looked at all the different areas. And for a lot of people, it's putting a budget in place. And now when you say budget, that's like the worst 4-letter word you can say to somebody, because everyone's attempted to start a budget, I believe, in their life multiple times to start one. And it lasts for about the first 3 hours, and then it's time to go to lunch. And let's break that budget, and we'll have one last meal out before we cut back in and get started. And it's okay to have those, and you build those into your budget that you're able to reward yourself. And I believe in that, having a reward that, hey, let's hit this hurdle, and once we get to this plateau, we'll reward ourselves, and then let's make the next one that it's stages in your life that you grow to where you need. And the biggest question I ask people when I first sit down with them is, how do you feel? Yeah. How do you feel about living with debt? How do you feel about struggling to pay your bills every month? How do you feel about if a catastrophe happened in your life, not being able to take care of it? How do you feel about having to ask other people to loan you money? How do you feel about using a credit card to live off of? And, now those are real tough, gut-wrenching questions, but you have to ask those, and you have to, I tell everybody, you have to get a little bit emotional.
Yeah.
Because, and it hurts a little bit, because this is why people procrastinate in doing it, because it gets a little bit uncomfortable. But the key part is, we live in America. You can change where you're at. And don't look at the moment. And it's so many people I meet with get caught up in the moment. Oh my gosh, I have 3 kids and they're eating me out of house and home. and I want to do these things, and I got to take them on a vacation, and I want to do this with them, and I want to send them to the right schools, and I want to make sure that we have safe vehicles to drive in, and I want to pay for them to go to college. And there's all these things that we want to do. Well, you have to prioritize them then.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you have to do one of 2 things. You're either going to have to give up on some of those things you want to do for yourself and for your family, or you're going to have to find other ways to bring in more income that you can afford to do them.
Yeah.
And it's a simple equation, but it's not a simple answer, because when you put those budgets in place, it gets uncomfortable. And I've seen this many times, and this is why you need to have that person in your life that you're involved with, whether your spouse, significant others, or your family, and maybe your children, that sometimes their spouses or their significant other are spending money in places they didn't realize, and you have to disclose that. Or maybe there's a habit there that and looking through, and I tell you, every one of us have habits that some are really, really good, but there's a few of them that aren't that good, that maybe we need to change or we need to address. And when you put these budgets in place and look at what do you want and how do you want it to look, you need to be willing to accept each other, accept where it's at, and then go through the process of making those changes. And don't get caught in the moment. Look down the road, in 3 years, your kids will be out of junior high and going into high school. Well, that changes a lot of things. 4 years after that, they'll be out of high school. Well, then it becomes college, possibly, or a trade school, or maybe they're in the workforce. And for some people, they're very involved and want to make sure I hear people all the time, I want to pay for their full college tuition. Well, in this world we live in today, it's difficult to pay for a full college tuition, but there's a lot of grants. There's a lot of opportunities to get money that is, not loans. Now, sometimes you do have to take a loan, but it's looking at those. For some people, maybe they want to drive a vehicle. They have the car they want to have. And I give an example because these are personal things I've went through in my life. I have life experience. And I remember back, 20 some years ago, my kids were in junior high and high school, and they had friends, and we traveled to go. They played sports, and I wanted to get a Ford Expedition.
Yeah.
Okay, the Ford Expedition. And back then, they were only $80,000. And I see so many people go, you know what? They justify it in their own mind. As Americans, it's so easy to justify, I need that vehicle. Well, what happens is, the good news is I have learned from my experiences in working and coaching people in financial that I don't really need a brand new one. Instead of paying $80,000, I could go find one that was 4 years old, that had not been worn and torn out, but was only $30,000.
Right.
So I could get the same vehicle. Now it's a couple years older. It has a little bit of use to it, but it saved me $50,000, not just in monthly payment that I would make. Now, the best way to buy a vehicle is to pay cash for it. But in this world today, we're go just borrow the money and do it. So the best way is to pay cash. Well, save up for that event and then pay the cash and get it. But sometimes when you have 4 kids and they have friends, you need room in the vehicle. So going with the smaller vehicle not only gave you a smaller payment, but you can pay less for insurance. Your taxes are going to be less on it. The sales tax when you buy it, the tags to put on are going to be a little less. And so it's not the brand new shiny car that everyone would love to have, but it's a vehicle that did what it needed to do, be able to haul our kids and their friends in a safe environment to where they needed to go.
Right.
And so sometimes it's about that mindset, and in your mindset, are you image conscious or are you financial conscious? And I learned at a young age, it's real easy to get caught up in being image conscious and the house I live in and the car I drive, and I have to have a boat because my neighbor has one. What I found out is being financially conscious will help you get to your goals, will help you get to those places in life that you live with the least amount of financial stress possible. Yeah. Financial stress is one of the biggest downfalls. It destroys families. It destroys relationships. It creates bankruptcy. It tears people apart. It breaks up friendships. And so it's teaching and learning how to go from being image conscious to being financially conscious of where you're at. Asking the hard questions to yourself. And for a lot of people, Eric, I don't even know how to ask those questions. Well, that's why it's good to get like a financial coach. Now, there's a lot of ways to put together a financial coach. You can go down and listen to podcasts like this to learn ideas and ways. And I see people do this all the time, and then they implement the things they learn off a podcast. Now, there's books you can buy. You can go buy a book with a workbook, and there's many great ones out there, and they will help you walk through putting that together. Now, I've met people that they started with a book and, okay, they struggled. Then they went and got on a podcast and it helped. But then they had to go to, I could do it virtually. You can actually get on and meet with somebody virtually that will walk through and teach you the questions in the way and give you guidance. Now, they shouldn't be critiquing you, but they should be asking you more questions of why do you really need this or why do you really want that, and how does this look to you? For some people, they need somebody they can go sit down with face to face. It's more comfortable. So we live in America. There's many opportunities. There's many places you can go to get that help and get a financial coach. And I always advise people because they ask me, okay, make sure you get somebody that can cover all areas. Now, what do I mean? I see a lot of people that go, well, I have an insurance agent, and insurance agents are really necessary, but are they able to give you the full package? The number one biggest thing you need to look for is someone that can actually put together a working budget for you that works for you. Insurance agents can help you make sure you have the right car insurance, homeowners insurance, other insurance that you need. They can make sure you have health insurance and life insurance, because all those 5 areas there, I've seen many families' lives ruined because they had the wrong plan. They were in a car accident and it just wiped them out. I've seen people have a death and they didn't have the right insurance. So an insurance agent is very necessary, but having that budget is important. And being able to max out your investment opportunities, if you have a 401k plan at work, a lot of companies match today. It may only be 2%, 3%, 5%. Make sure you're at least getting I call it free money.
Yeah.
If you work for a company and they give you 5% match, you better be putting your 5% in. Now, if you have a goal to retire someday, you need to make sure you're probably putting a little bit more than that in. Now, having someone that understands investments to help you make sure that it's properly. Now, a lot of companies, they have guidance inside their 401k plans. Now, I meet a lot of people that are self-employed, or maybe they're in sales and they don't have a 401k plan. Well, then you're going to need to find a coach that can help you get a simplified employee pension plan. That's for self-employed people, or you can set up your own Roth IRA account or a traditional IRA account that you need to have that discipline. You're putting money away, because if no one's putting it away for you, well, I'm going to rely on Social Security, and all the conversations today are, is Social Security going to be there? Now, I believe it's going to be there, but I believe down the road for our kids and grandkids, you're going to have to qualify to get on it.
Yeah.
Just because there's less people putting money in today, and there's more people right at the bubble ready to start taking money out. So you need to have a coach that's able not just to look at a budget, but to look at your different insurance, but to look at your investments. And so they need to be able to multitask with you and look at a full picture of everything you have and what your goals are. They need to be not telling you what to do, but they need to listen to what you want and then show you and give you the options of how to get there. Having a plan in place. Now, you're going to have a short-term plan. Now, your short-term plan may be the next 3 years to get the kids out of the house and on to their next phase in their life. And it may be just getting to retire. It may be a long-term plan that for retirement. I want to retire at age 55, and I meet lots of people retire at age 55 and have a great retirement, but that's because they started in their 20s and early 30s and started doing those things and running their plan, their budget, and making sure they were taken care of and had discipline. And there's another 4-letter word, discipline.
Yeah.
In America, it's hard to have discipline. And so I tell people, having a short-term plan, where do you want to be in a year and where do you want to be by retirement? And so, and as you look at things, I tell people in a year, the main things I help people focus on when we sit down with them is you understand a year from now, you may not have an emergency fund today. If something went wrong, you needed to use your insurance. Well, who pays for the deductible? That's what an emergency fund's for. Or something happens that you need to fall back on, or maybe you get sick and you can't work for a month or 2 months. You need to have 3 to 6 months of income put away. Well, how do you tell that, Eric? Everyone's different. How do you sleep at night knowing you have debt? And I go, I sleep like a baby. It doesn't bother me. Well, then you probably need 3 months put away. You go, oh my gosh, if I owe anybody anything, I can't sleep. Well, then you need to have 6 months put away. That there's ways that we can sit down and figure out. But in a year, you could easily have 3 months of income put away. And they go, well, Eric, how do you do that? Well, you may have to make some adjustments. You may need to go in and take that nice, shiny car that you just bought last year. You may need to trade it in and get a little bit older model, lower your payment, lower your insurance costs, or lower your insurance costs and get the insurance you should really have on that in case something happens so you're protected. That gives you more money that you're already spending, putting it away. Make sure you have that you're maxing out, that through work that you're putting in place, you may have to go get a part-time job or take up something that can make extra money. Maybe you have some garage sales and get rid of all the other stuff you've accumulated. Maybe you need to shut down that Amazon account for 3 months. I've actually asked people, I said, that's what you may need. But I have to, well, the challenge is there are things you buy on Amazon that you can get a great value on. But let's pull up your account and let's look at the last month, all the things you bought. And I find out when I do that with people.
Yeah, they probably don't use it.
Half the things you bought, they're still sitting in the original box. That was so neat. I saw it on Facebook. It took me to Amazon. I bought it. It was here the next day. And I still even haven't taken the saran wrap off to get it out and attempt it. And I have to put my hand up. I'm guilty.
Right.
Of doing that exact same thing. Everyone is. The great news is we live in America. We have those options and ability. The bad news is we live in America and we have that option and ability. And so it's putting a plan in place that's workable for you.
Yeah.
That you and your family can live off of.
How does that change over different phases of your life? Because financial freedom probably looks different depending on where you're at in your life.
Correct. Financial freedom in every phase is different. And so as you look at that phase, it's like as soon as you get out of school, well, your goal is, for most people, is I'm going to find the right person and I want to get married and I want to buy my first house and I want to start a family. And I see a lot of people, I've seen this happen before, when someone is just out of school and they get their first job, like, I want you to max out your retirement plan, your 401k plan. And I have people, I need to start, I'm going to do all the things right. I need to go start my own self-directed IRA and open that. And I say, well, let's hold off on that a little bit. And the reason is because in your IRA, you can put in $6,000 a year. You go put your $6,000 in this year because I can afford it because I'm single. Then you meet the right person next year. Yeah. Then a year later, you're like, okay, I want to get married. And now all of a sudden that little wedding that you thought would be $12,000 or $15,000 becomes $30,000 because that happens all the time. And then I see people that now are 28, 29 years old. I need to liquidate that IRA account so I have enough money to pay this off, or I'm going to have to put on a credit card. And I see people that run into financial trouble for a multitude of different reasons. And to take money out of your IRA, there's a penalty, 10%. So you may have made some money, but you just lost 10%. And what if the market was down and you lost money and took a 10% hit?
Right.
Having the emergency fund is the most important thing to have at every phase of the process of living life, of going through. Whether you're just getting started, whether you have children that you're raising, whether you're an empty nester and going into looking at retirement. And so there's little things that you want to adjust and look for. And that's where it comes down to having that short-term goal to look at and having the big picture long-term. What is retirement going to look like? And I meet with people every day that are looking to retire. that want to retire. And you know, the reason they don't is they don't believe they can. And for some of them, they are able to retire. They just don't realize it. We help open their eyes and clear the slate, and so they can see you can retire and live. But I meet people all the time in their 50s, in their 60s. I even have people in their 70s. They still have a $250,000 mortgage.
Oh my
They're still
gosh.
paying for $35,000 they owe on their vehicle. How can you retire with a big house payment and a big car payment? So at that point, is what's more important to you, retirement or driving the car that, now you may love your car. Well, what if you could get that same type of car in a little bit older model that's paid for? And so it's just about, it's disclosing it's okay to sell the car that you have and get a different. It's okay to move out of this big 5-bedroom house you lived in that you raised your kids in and move into a smaller place that you can just take your equity and not even have a house payment. There's always a way to make things work if you're willing to look at all the options. And as a financial coach, our job is to show them their options, let them look at the different ways they can go, and make a choice that's best for them.
Financial freedom may not so much be like a specific salary, because I feel like I've been seeing that a lot lately where people are saying there's surveys and reports going around that you need to make 6 figures in order to feel comfortable. But do you think there's a certain dollar amount that indicates financial freedom, or is it more about your spending habits and your mindset and your attitudes around money?
It is neither one of those, but it's both of those. Which I don't think I just answered your question, did I? Here's my opinion. Here's my opinion on that. I meet people that make a 6-figure income and are flat broke. If they didn't get their next 2 paychecks, they would be down in the courthouse filing bankruptcy. I meet people that are custodians making $42,000 a year. They don't have a house payment. They don't have a car payment, and they've got $100,000 sitting in their checking account, and they make $42,000 a year. See, I believe it's a mindset that they make a decision. It goes back to that, are you image conscious? Are you financially conscious? If you're financially conscious, you're going to make decisions financially that you can be in the best position possible, that you have zero financial stress. I mean, people that are custodians, they have zero stress at all. They're like, yeah, anything goes wrong, I'm covered. I got it taken care of. And, you know, they don't put a lot of money in their retirement plan, but they don't need a lot of money in retirement because they don't have all those expenses. And so making a big income is really great if you handle it in a way that suits you, because here's how so many people I see live. I'm getting that next pay raise. I'm getting that next bonus next year. But that's scary.
Yeah.
I tell everyone, when you get your next pay raise, how you handle it will be a great education to yourself of what your future is going to look like. Now, Eric, what does that mean? Well, when you get let's just go back to your last pay raise. What did your last pay raise? What happened? It came in. First thing they did is they went down and bought some furniture, and there wasn't enough to buy the furniture they want, so they got a loan on top of it. So you got a pay raise, blew the money right up front, and
Put yourself in the
line
hole.
of credit and spent it, and you're farther in the hole.
Yeah.
See, when the pay raise comes in, what if you took part of that money? You know, there's a little concept called pay yourself first. You need to put more money into your emergency fund. You need to put more money into your retirement plan. So if you get a pay raise, every time you get a pay raise, bump what you're putting into your retirement plan, whether it's in a self-directed individual retirement account or whether it's your 401k plan, your 403b plan. Take part of that, 25%, and put in there, because it's going to help you when you get to retirement. Then take part of that money every month and go put it in your emergency fund, your savings account, another 25%. That leaves 50% left over. Now that 50%, if you're totally and completely debt-free, it's money for you to go spend and blow on yourself. If you're not, why don't you take that other 50% and go pay your debt down?
Yeah.
You just created a plan. 25% here, 25%, taking care of the immediate if something happens in the emergency, taking care of the future for retirement, and getting out of debt. Because I have people sit back when we do the initial, what would your life be like if you didn't have a house payment, didn't have a car payment, had zero credit card debt? What would your life feel like? Oh, and you had $100,000 in your checking account. What would life be like? And I see people's whole demeanor change as they have their eyes closed and they go through that part of the process and go, oh, that feels so good. I said, okay, let's come to reality. Are you at that point right now? Oh, and they just go back to that the stress lines come back. Go, no. How would it feel to be there? Let's take that emotion, that peace you just felt, and let's put a plan in place that you take a certain amount of your money and you put it away for that emergency fund, and keep adding to where it's at. I see people all the time ask them, did you get a tax refund last year? Oh, yeah. I got $6,000. Tell me, please share with me, what'd you do with that $6,000? Oh, we went on vacation. Well, that gives me an indication what their future. I meet people now that are in their 70s. I have a lady right now, 79 years old, still working.
Oh, my gosh.
She can't afford to retire because she is so image conscious and she has debt. I still have a mortgage, Eric. Okay. Well, and she goes, well, I love my job. The reason you love your job so much is because it pays your bills.
Yeah.
Imagine how much you could love retirement, being able to go spend time with all your retired friends. You maybe have a hobby like pickleball, or you go to movies, or maybe you join a travel club and you travel. Because where things are, we get into this little tunnel vision. This is my life. This is what I have to do. I have to keep working because that's all they know, because they've never broken free to go, there's another option, another way to live.
How do you shift between being someone who's image focused to kind of transitioning into being financially focused?
That is one of the most difficult things to do for most people, because in our lifetime, that's what we focused on. Is we were either raised that way that we in college or in high school, that attempting, the old saying is you have to keep up with the Joneses. And that's why people live in neighborhoods they live in, and my kids have to go to this school, and they have to go to a private school, and I have to drive this vehicle to be in. And so to get out of that, I meet with lots of people that we put a plan in place and they never act upon it. They act upon it for the first 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Our friends are going to Key West this weekend. We want to go with them. Well, so how do you tell your friends you can't? I can't tell them we can't go. We had this big trip plan that we were going on. Well, how'd you pay for the trip? Well, we put it on our credit card. Well, you can call for most trips and cancel them and get a refund and not be so far in debt. And it's going into that mind change, that mind shift. And what happens is I tell everybody, I'm going to teach you concepts and ideas of how to have the best financial life possible and have the least amount of stress. But it's going to take discipline, and it's going to take hard work to make some of those changes. You're going to have to say no, not just to your significant other, your spouse. You're going to have to say no to your children. You're going to have to say no to your family. You're going to have to say no on some things because everybody has what are called needs.
Yeah. That
you need to have: food, shelter, but then you have those wants. Well, I do need food, but I don't like going to the local restaurant, Steve's Diner, which is very reasonable, good food. I need to go to that upscale 5-star restaurant because the food's a lot better. Now, the price is 5 times as much. And so it's learning those new habits. And the biggest thing I teach people in making this change is not only do you need to learn these lessons for you, you need to start teaching your children. And I don't care if they're young or if they're in college. They may have already been out, that if we don't teach our children these concepts and help get them on track, they're going to go down the same path that we went down.
Yeah, and it's just a vicious cycle.
It is a cycle. I call it a doom loop. And what I see this happen when I meet with people. I'm getting ready to file bankruptcy for the second time. Really? Okay. Once wasn't enough. 7 years later, you're doing it again. Well, you know what? My parents had to go through and they filed bankruptcy twice too. Oh. And you know what? My grandparents way back in the 70s, but the economy was really bad back then. And so I see generational issues that are passed on from generation to generation of families. It's okay to be broke. It's okay to not be in a good fight. It's okay to be in debt. And we have to change our future generations, our children. You need to have money put away for an emergency. You need to be saving for retirement. You need to have some discipline. And it's so easy for them to get caught up. You can only do what you can do, because I meet with people all the time and they go, my heart goes out to my kids and when and I'm a little bit more mature. I've been around when they had a class when I was in high school, how to balance your checkbook. You spent one day, here's how your checkbook works, and I had friends. I won't say that I did this out loud, but hey, I got this notice, $15, it's overdrawn. So I wrote a check to put a check in there so it would have enough money, that people didn't get it. That when it comes to finance, it comes to taking care of yourself, they lightly touch on it and move on. And so as Americans, most people don't have a place to turn to. Now, like I said, there's lots of podcasts. There's lots you can get on and listen to, radio shows that will teach you, that'll put discipline. You can get books. You can get a coach, a financial coach. It's going to teach you these simple things. There's programs that you can run to put a budget in place. But it's being accountable and to making sure you follow through. And I tell everyone, the journey you're looking to go down is the most rewarding, unbelievable. Imagine how it's going to feel turning 62 years old. If they have their age, 62 years old, you want to retire. You want to go live in your dream house, and you want to drive the dream vehicle, and everything works together. You want that, but based on how you're living today, you'll never get that. You're going to work forever, because you're always going to be behind the eight ball, and you need that regular paycheck because you didn't take the discipline. The hardest thing is to create that discipline, is to change the mindset as Americans that we have. Hey, instant gratification. I can have it today.
Right.
And it's just making those little carburetor adjustments. Now, they're big adjustments, but once you've made them, you're going to be in a great position.
That does it for this edition of Not Your Father's 2 Cents. Sources used in this episode will be linked in the description. Please have a happy and safe 4th of July. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll meet you back here next week.